Sup Shredders, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands and welcome to an SP Patrons video today that I'm making for Yida as part of their custom monthly music review. And if we switch over to here, we have ourselves the track on the screen from Amazing Show titled These Years. So we're going to listen through it from start to finish and we're going to hear what we think. I've also got lyrics kindly provided by Yida to look through after this, so let's go. What have we got? It's like really pretty and uplifting with the guitar arpeggios there, the drums, bass, everything like that. It glows, you know? Great tone to the drums, actually. And I like how peppy the piano is on the left side. It's not often that I think you get the keys on the left side, but I actually think it's actually a really smart idea. It can kind of counter some of the, the stuff there's maybe sub-leads going on the other side. It kind of makes the stereo field seem a bit more sort of balanced. I think there are extra guitar parts on the right side. It's that sort of punk rock aesthetic with the vocals as well. A little bit of disdain in the voice. I like the tone of it though, it's very refreshing. The octave chords are really gorgeous in their mid-range as well. The person with you is not me anymore. The animations as well, you can see like the little cartoons of the people. I think it's absolutely adorable. Unconventional melodic phrasing there, scale phrasing. Oh, going to the parallel major. Going to the parallel major for that. Nice choice. It's a little bit sort of rare for people to do that, but I kind of appreciate we're doing something different. Great chemistry from the band on stage. Yay, was that like a live take? Is that a live take of the song? Because if it is, I think it's a fantastic performance. That's when you know you've got a really quality act. Is when they're able to sort of like put all that together, you know? Because yeah, anyone can perfect stuff in a studio, but this is the next level. So we've got some lyrics here kindly provided again by Yida. We've got, what kind of life have you been living for the past few years? What have your moods been like? I'm not the one who is there for you anymore. Goodbye, I'll let you go. Does it hurt you for you to think of me? You coldly said you'd give it up. Now you want to live and I still have nothing to do. You're an outlaw. I'm a fool. Everything I've done for you has gone down the drain. I'm not the one who's there for you anymore. Message to your husband. Fuck you. Your kids are actually my kids because kids look weird and talk bad. Just like me. You tell me to shut up. All I can say is go to hell. Wow. Wow. There is some fury here, man. I don't care, leave it. I don't care, leave it. And this is some pretty intense stuff that we're trying to communicate here. What kind of life have you led over the years? What kind of mood have you been in? Oh, crazy. Thank you. I really appreciate having the translations for this track. What a story. And welcome to the conclusion of my review of this track from an act named The Amazing Show, titled These Years. Now, what do I think this track is about? I think this track is about someone who is just, you know, they've had a breakup with the person that they're with, and they're ultimately just realized that, like, they are separate. They still have some sort of mixed feelings towards them. They're angry with their husband. They're angry with how things ended. And they're just, I suppose it's just sort of still coping with the fact that they're separated, that the other person has kids, that they're married and stuff like that, might potentially be happy. Maybe this has to do with the person in the band. Maybe they were with someone and they had separate dreams to them and things weren't compatible and there's just a bit of sort of angst and regret about it. But it's like after that amount of years, those feelings can still be kind of raw, and I think that's the indication of what we're sort of aiming at here. It's about the rawness, how rough it can be in those situations where like you look back and you realize that time has changed. The vocals were fantastic. I think there was a bit of disdain that I mentioned. That came through in the vocal performance, and I think in a sense that made sense with what the lyrics were saying. At the same time, I think they tried to keep it well balanced tonally, because I think you could have gone a little bit too sort of feral with the sort of velocity of the phrasing and really gone off the deep end and really made something kind of icky sounding. That would have been a little bit too sort of dark to be able to still remain somewhat kind of bright and colorful if you've gone too heavy on the sort of like the way the vocals, the story been told there. Because again, there's some fairly sort of like grim stuff that we're discussing here. We're literally saying fuck you to the husband and stuff like that. It's pretty, it's intense for sure. But I nonetheless appreciate the fact that they're telling that story. There's a really compelling vocal melodies there. Performatively, I think it's appropriate. There's great vocal technique, to chest voice there. The harmonies that we had as well from the other singers in the band niched nicely, and there was lots of variation in the overall vocals and how they were presented in the mix, which made them more interesting to listen to. I think that the stories had an interesting rhythmic phrasing that coalesced and grooved well with the rest of the arrangement, and I think there's a good connection with the lyrics and the vocals enough for them to make them work. The track at 4 minutes 45 is solid. I think that it's well phrased out with various sort of verse, chorus, and interlude parts there. We had enough time to really sort of flesh out the instrumental parts as well with the piano, the guitar, bass, drums. That was basically what we had for the most part. The vocals were the focal point for the vast majority of it, but at the same time we did have moments where like the guitars could shine or the keys could shine. For example, if I talk about how I felt about like sort of the piano parts, I think the keys, when they were on that left side, there were a nice bit of mid-range to sort of fill in the sections where there weren't sort of supermassive guitars or extra vocals on either side of the stereo field. They arpeggiated well and had a nice sort of placement there where they didn't interfere too much with what the guitar was doing with the distortion. If anything, the relative firmness of the notes in sort of contrast to the fuzziness of those rhythm parts sort of niched well. And like they contrasted or juxtaposed well. The guitar, so I think that like tonally, melodically, the piano was a great addition as like a sub lead. The guitars, both the rhythm and the lead parts, were great. We typically had sort of power chords or some arpeggiated bits occasionally, with there being like lead octave chords and stuff like that in the chorus parts. And I think they added a bit of glow to that high end, whilst also maintaining a sense of pace with the bass and drums. The chord progressions we had were nice and catchy, whilst never being too grim. There was sort of a pop punk kind of aesthetic to it that reminded me a lot of music from the mid-2000s, which makes sense for the kind of subject matter we're discussing. It's appropriate. Again, if we'd gone outside of major and minor triads and gone to sort of tritones and stuff, it would have been a little bit too much. Although to be fair, there were some interesting melodic phrasings there from some of the guitar riffs in that interlude section there. We kind of went outside of that scale and had some chromatics or accidentals in there, which was kind of spicy and sort of piqued my interest, so to speak. I imagine it was to sort of indicate a kind of twist in the tail or something like that lyrically, which if that was the case was completely appropriate and very clever. The rhythm section in general was pretty tight. The bass player at the bottom of the stereo at the frequency spectrum held well, kind of sticking alongside the root notes, the chord progressions and such without venturing too much outside of that. I think it was basically sort of make sure that low end of the track and the movement forward was nice and stellar and strong the whole entire way through. And it provided a great sense of sort of like a synchronicity with the drums. The drums were great as well. I mean, like the percussion, I don't think there was a cymbal hit or sort of flam out of place. The 8th sort of cymbal grooves with the hi-hats and the rides and stuff like that were fantastic, with lots of crashes and different sort of snare fills. There was exploration of toms and stuff like that as well. Now, especially near the end, there was a phenomenal drum fill near the end of the track with like some 16th triplets or something like that, which was very impressive. And all in all, I think what I like about the song in part is that a lot of these instrumentalists outside of the vocalists got a chance to shine in regards to their instruments. They had enough space to do their own thing, even if the vocals were still the sort of main focus of attention. There was different chord progressions for different parts. We didn't stick with the same idea the entire time. But the theme overall kind of sounded like we were sort of lost something. I got that from the minor tonalities there, the soaring octave parts there, the keys providing a little bit sort of comfort in that left part, the bass and drums propelling us forward, and the overall tone and texture of the vocal parts there, the attitude provided, made it seem like we were sort of like working through something. That's what I got from it. So when I compare what I read in the lyrics to that, it makes a lot of sense. The recording, mixing, mastering, studio production was absolutely spectacular. I'm really stoked with how it sounds. I think that we captured the essence of the vocal recordings as well as the instrumental parts incredibly neatly. And, in general, we just had this fantastic situation where it didn't sound like we'd overprocessed anything. Things fit nicely into the frequency spectrum as well as the stereo field there. That was nice and loud without pumping, so the bus compression limiting was handled. And there was sufficient dynamic range there, so things weren't squashed. And it was just a fairly raw live performance. I'm not sure if it was literally captured live or if they captured it like it was a live performance in studio. But either way, it seemed like there was a crowd there. They were entertained by it. It was very meaningful to them. And there was a great sense of connection between the band and their audience. And you can't get any better than that. I mean, effectively, this is my review of this track from an act named The Amazing Show, or Amazing Show, titled These Years. And hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please do go show them some love via their various social medias and their YouTube page, and stay cool, stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as they need the help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world. And I'll catch you in the next review. Spiderhands out.